Web editing. In this lesson, we're going to look at HTML encoding and ensuring universal access. I want you to be able to describe the functions of HTML, write some HTML code, explain key features of web editors, explain how web developers meet the needs of universal access, as well as the differences between HTML and XHTML. You want to know the principles of well-formed code and how to validate that code. HTML is hypertext markup language. It's the code used to create web pages. A browser is a computer program that allows you to view a web page, and no matter which hardware or browser you are using, all web pages will be displayed in a largely similar way. HTML files do not have quite the universal consistency of PDF, and all web browsers do not show web pages in exactly the same way. HTML is a simple code designed to translate text and graphics into a viewable page. A tag is an HTML code used to identify an element in an HTML file and instruct browsers on how and where to display the element. Each code, usually written in lowercase letters, is enclosed in angle brackets with the characters that you see here. Get my pen. With your opening and closing angle brackets. Some HTML basics. Web pages begin with an opening HTML tag. The page then goes to the head tag. The next element is the title, and many tags appear in pairs. The start tag is the first in a pair, also called an opening. The end tag is the second in a pair, also called the closing. So, like for your title, this is your opening, and this is your closing. An element is a unit of a web page defined by start and end tags. Elements include the head, the title, the body, headings, paragraphs, and bulleted lists. One element can contain several others. An attribute is part of a tag that further describes or defines an element, which consists of the attribute type and the value for that attribute. It appears in the start tag only, and they're written in the form of attribute name equals whatever that value is in parentheses. Not parentheses, double quotes. Empty elements are elements that do not have any content. Common HTML tags. HTML has dozens of tags and they cover a broad range of functions. Some common ones you see are P for paragraph, BR for line break, and div for division, which is usually what's used to basically break up the web page. Learn by copying. One way to learn HTML tagging is to examine the source code. Begin with pages that are relatively simple to you so that you don't get confused. Focus on just one section of a page at a time so that you can better understand the code and its effects. Study the codes in conjunction with the text, the images, and other design features on a website to begin to understand the effects of various codes. By understanding the effects created by different codes, you can design pages using the tags that you want. Another approach to learning HTML is to use online tutorials. A web editor is a computer software that creates HTML code automatically as part of the web design process. You can also write code in a simple text editor or word processing program. Writing HTML in a text editor or word processing program lets you focus on the code so you gain a better understanding of the code. Different ways of viewing a site. One advantage of using a web editing software is that it provides a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get interface. Most web editors have two panels, one displaying the text and codes and the other showing how it will appear in the browser. Features of your web editors. Web editors provide tools to create many different effects, including these commonly used: page backgrounds using colors or images, text in different sizes and colors, wraparound text and other special effects, graphics including horizontal rules, bulleted lists, rollover images, and image maps, drop-down menus, option buttons, and forms that users can fill out, and links to other pages. A vital feature is the ability to conduct compatibility checks with different browsers. Consider these features in evaluating your web editor: templates, media, interactive elements, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and tables. There are access limitations that stem from the varying capabilities of three features connected with how people access the internet: the display screen being used, the speed of the computer and the internet connection, and the browser being used. A special issue is the question of smartphones and mobile browsing. The issue of accessibility for people with disabilities is also another important consideration for web design. Display. Challenging to design a web page that will appear exactly as you anticipate. Some computers have larger display screens than others, some do not have the same fonts as you do, and some won't be able to display as many colors. Following these principles will help minimize the display-related problems. Design the web page for an 800 by 600 width by depth pixel resolution. Avoid font issues by choosing common fonts and specifying optional fonts that are similar to each other. Download speed. Download speed depends on both the speed of the user's computer and his or her internet access. Follow these guidelines to help develop faster websites. Keep the overall file size of each web page relatively small. Keep images small and compressed. Include music, video, and animation only if they are essential to your purpose. Run error checks on HTML code and CSS styles. Avoid placing tables within tables or nesting them. And use a host computer that is as fast as possible. Browser. Some compatibility issues are related to browser software. Some function or formatting commands are not available in all browsers. The web editor may help you by indicating if a particular function is not available to all browsers. And the browser compatibility check can help to resolve issues. Mobile devices. Display, download speed, and browser type are all factors in the use of smartphones for web browsing. Smartphones cannot display as much text as can be seen on a computer screen. Accessibility. Many web users have various disabilities such as impaired vision, difficulty hearing, or color blindness. Designing a web page with these individuals in mind is considered a good standard for good web design. World Wide Web Consortium W3C is an organization that sets standards for the World Wide Web, including such issues as privacy, markup languages, styles, and other issues. Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, are accessibility standards set by the W3C for web developers to follow in order to make websites accessible to individuals with disabilities. XHTML is a markup language similar to HTML but with stricter requirements. Well-formed code is formatting code that meets the quality standards of the coding system. To validate is to check the code used to generate web pages to make sure it meets quality standards. A web server is a computer used to store web pages so that browsers can access them. The domain name is the unique name for a website, which becomes part of the site's URL and which may be formally registered. Hacking is the unauthorized modification of a website, usually in ways that distort the original purpose of the site or seek to harm the site's owner. File Transfer Protocol, or FTP, is a communications protocol used to transfer files from one computer to another over a network. FTP is often used to upload web pages to a web server. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is the code that identifies what and how content will be displayed on your web pages. The web browsers interpret HTML tags to show web pages. Certain tags are needed to mark the beginning and ending in the document of an HTML. The content of the web page is contained within the two codes of the opening body and closing body tags. The body of a document is composed of any number of elements, each of which may be further described by attributes. Some attributes themselves are characterized by values. One way to learn HTML code is by copying the code from a web page that have design elements that you like. Browsers make it possible to reveal the source code of the underlying page. Web editors are software programs that make it possible to write HTML code or to create web pages in a WYSIWYG format. A key feature is balancing the ability to design a variety of elements while maintaining the ease of use. And how a web page is displayed depends not only on how it's designed, but also on the type of device on which the web page is being viewed, the speed of the computer and internet access of the user, and the type of browser. The increase in smartphones and other mobile browsing devices raises other questions since the display on these devices is very small compared to that of a computer. The World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, recommends various practices for making it possible for individuals with disabilities to have access to web content. The W3C also recommends that web developers adopt XHTML to code web documents in order to make their displays more standard across different browsers and devices. Let me know if you have any questions.